The you that you could become is held prisoner by the you that you think you are. In this morning's writing, what came up really was like a twofold thing. It started as one thing, kind of became something else. One is how we limit ourselves and almost hold ourselves prisoner by the idea and the concepts of who we believe we are, and how that actually prevents us from all the infinite potential and possibility of who we could become. The second part of it was why that actually happens, the reason we kind of hold ourselves back, and the relationship that we start to establish with life, which ultimately has this kind of underlying belief that life is in some way a problem that needs to be solved. And it's always saying, not this, not here. Always looking for the next thing, always trying to move over there, thinking that will be the answer. And also why we do that, how we ended up creating a society and a narrative where we survive to acquire resources rather than acquiring resources to survive. So, if you're new to the channel, my name is Sabri. I'm the host of the Lost and Found podcast, and that is how this channel started. And recently, I decided to start sharing some of the things that come up for me in my morning writings, which feel like they come through me rather than by me. Sometimes I literally have no idea what is going to come out. And as I write the first line, I'm completely in the dark and I just let it flow. Now, some people call this channeling. I don't necessarily give it a label. All I know is I open myself up to receive wisdom from somewhere and I allow it to flow out. Over time, this has offered me a lot of solace and insights and some profound understanding. So I wanted to start sharing it with people in the hopes that it might offer something for you as well. If it does, let me know in the comments below what comes up for you. If you enjoy the video, hit like, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe. All right, that's it. Let's jump into this morning's writing. The you that you could become is held prisoner by the you that you think you are. Break free from the prison of thoughts that hold you captive, the ideas that you believe that say who you are. Those ideas create your beliefs about how you should feel, what actions you should take, and what your life is. As we get older, we create a box that we exist in. In that box, we have a limited set of thoughts that create a limited set of feelings, that create a limited set of actions based on a limited vision on what and how I believe my life is meant to be. You wake up, have the same thoughts as the previous morning, take the same types of actions for the same reasons, feeling the same way, getting very similar results, hoping that what you do today gets you closer to being where you want to be, not realizing that all of this is centered around an idea of where the foundational belief is, not this, not here. There's an undercurrent of energy that is always present, which in some way believes that life is a problem that needs solving. So I asked why. Through the evolutionary process, we had to survive and compete for resources. We then evolved sociologically to a place where the competition for resources to survive moved to competition of resources for status. Status primitively equaled survival and replication value, our biological imperative. The more resources we had, the more value we had to offer, and the safer we were. But there was a turning point where it became living to acquire resources rather than acquiring resources to live. We then conflated more resources with more value until we then structured our lives to be in service to acquiring resources for status alone rather than to survive and replicate. We then pursue these in a way where it actually diminishes its returns. We sacrifice health, freedom, love, family, all the things we pursued them for in the first place. We serve resources rather than resources serving us. We became slaves to a confused narrative, to a delusion, a collective delusion that structures society where we believe a distortion of life and what life is. We spend more time trying to create an image of ourselves that we think will be celebrated by others or at least accepted. We have an idea of what that is, what we think we need to do, what we think we need to be, what we think we need to have, and how we think we need to behave. We split off the aspects of ourselves that we think don't fit in with that narrative, creating a divide between worthy and not worthy, acceptable and not acceptable. All of these things are thoughts. Ideas, and 95% of them are not ours. The undercurrent of energy for day to day existence is trying to be, do, and have, to be acceptable, worthy, and to survive. It's living in a primitive state in a time that has evolved. There is a gap between reality and our perception of it. Our mind hasn't yet caught up to what is real. When we surrender this narrative, we let go of trying to be what we think we need to be. We can reclaim who we are and just be. Be what we are in truth. Follow our heart, our soul's calling. When we let go of what other people think, we let go of all the ideas of who I think I am, because most of that was formed from who I think I need to be and who I think I can't be. Release all the ideas. Open to the infinite truth of who you can be. Every moment is an opportunity to create from what could be and not what is. Now, for me, there was almost two narratives taking place there. One is the idea that our thoughts about who we are can really limit who we can become. Because when I identify as a certain set of thoughts, like this is who I am, I have these labels, it then creates a routine. I put myself in a box and I live it out daily, again, again, again. And it becomes so habitual. How I wake up in the morning, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, what I'm hoping for, how I want tomorrow to be different today. But actually, it's the same thing on repeat. So that was one aspect. Then the other aspect was why? Why are we doing that? And how much of ourselves do we fragment away from because we believe we have to show up in a certain way? If you think about this for a moment, how much of our lives, when we go real deep down, is in pursuit of being accepted? Whether that's having a career because we want to feel successful. Why? So I'm accepted by society. To look a certain way, to have certain things, and there's an underlying desire to be perceived by others in a certain way. And of course, if you look at where this all began within our tribes, we want to be accepted by our tribe. We want to find a mate. We want to be able to replicate. We want to have resources. So, all of these things, this biological imperative that we have, which really is primitive, yet still exists now, we've ended up just extrapolating on that biological imperative to the point where we no longer acquire a certain amount of resources to survive. We survive to acquire resources. And if you think about it, how often do we then let the things that mean the most, the reason we actually want the resources, we let those things suffer in the pursuit of the acquisition of them? And then the next thing this kind of brought up for me is like, how much of what we do really is in pursuit of being able to find a mate? If we think biologically, what our hardwiring is, so we can find someone to replicate with, because most of us have the biological impulse to want to replicate our genes. So a lot of what we do is to be accepted by society, so we can be accepted by an individual where we can find that mate, we can replicate our genes, and then we find that person, and how much of ourselves do we still split off? Even if that person fully accepts us, I feel like I have to show up in a certain way to either keep them or to still be accepted by society. And this isn't a conscious thought. This is completely unconscious. And if you look at it, it's not an individual unconscious pattern. It's actually the collective unconscious. You look in society and just how much that is woven into the fabric of our existence. What this was really highlighting for me was that being a part of this narrative is really like being on a treadmill or on a hamster wheel. It just keeps going. And it's always in the pursuit and in the hope that at some point will actually be better than now. And that life is a problem that needs to be solved. And again, if you go back thousands of years ago, that probably was the case. And in some ways, it still is the case now. We put mortgages on ourselves, car payments, all the different things that we actually need to kind of solve this problem that we've created. And we think we need to have these things in order to be viewed in a certain way. So it was pretty fascinating and illuminating for me to kind of look at that. But the biggest thing I would say I got out of it was how much of myself do I not allow to be seen in full because of the opinions of other people? Even when those things I might hold back are elements of me that some of my closest friends like the most. And What would happen if I just said, you know what, let's fully embrace these aspects of me. Let's allow them to be seen. What happens? What types of people do I attract into my life? What types of circumstances that actually would really align with the depth of who I am if I show up in that fullness? How many of us are in relationships where we are afraid to let every part of us be seen and to be known because we think our partner might not accept that? And I don't mean toxic behaviors or traits. There are people that I've worked with in a coaching capacity that hold back their kindness, their love, their laughter and humor, because at some point in their life, they experience the lack of attunement, which said that part of them isn't okay or allowed to exist. So sometimes we actually hold back the very best parts of ourselves. And it gets so normalized. Again, we put ourselves in a box. It gets so normalized into our thoughts, feelings, and then patterns of behavior that we fully break away from those. And do we think we can ever truly feel joy if there's always an underlying sense of how I am isn't okay? Now, these are things that I dive into in this 6 month mastermind that I facilitate, which is to help people break free from limiting beliefs, to let go of the past and really feel that freedom to be who they are and the freedom to become who they truly want to be. We launched this a month ago, and some of the feedback from the members have been really incredible. Huge energetic shifts, realizations, seeing things that they'd never seen before, and actually establishing a whole new relationship with the way in which they see life itself. Now, if this is something that calls out to you, if you're here watching this video because you're someone who's on that path of self-exploration, personal growth, and wanting to expand into the fullness of who they are, then click the link, check out the website for the masterminds. And if you feel a resonance with it, book a call, find out more. It'll be a time for you and I to connect where you can learn more about the mastermind and exactly how it could facilitate the deep inner transformation for you to fully step into your fullness, to reclaim all the parts that you may have abandoned before now, and to really feel that sense of joy from being you fully expressed. All right, I hope you got some value from this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below what came up for you. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and subscribe. And if you think this would add value to anyone else, please share the video. All right, thank you so much for being here as always. Until next time, much love.